Test, 1, 2, 3. This is a redo on the entire Black Wall Street presentation podcast this morning. Begin podcast. May the 31st and June the 1st are according on May the 31st and June the 1st in 1921. Mobs of white residents, many of them deputized and given weapons by city officials, attacked black residents and businesses in the Greenwood community of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so thus, this day happened the day after Memorial Day, which is the 31st of May. This happened on the 31st of May, Memorial Day as well, to June 1st. It's sad to say that this Memorial Day, there are no headstones for those victims of the Tulsa race riots, and so much so that there's current excavation going on in the area for a possible mass grave containing as many as 300 people. Before I start this morning, obviously, I would say that this is Memorial Day, and that we do honor so many American soldiers who lost their lives, and for reasons oftentimes that not even they were sure of. But we do know that their valor and their dignity, and quite frankly, their damn courage to go to faraway places and try to defend, or say they believe they're defending their country's honor. If the 19th of June is considered the Black 4th of July, then Tulsa is our American Holocaust. In 1976, I was a young student at Santa Monica College, freshly arriving from Texas, and I took a class by a gentleman named Jonathan K. Malonza, a black Rhodesian, which is now Zimbabwe. He taught African American studies as if it was physics, and by that I mean he was analytical and calm and determined. His primary text was From Slavery to Freedom, and his secondary text was the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. And his other readings were on the peculiar institution. Supposedly, this peculiar institution of slavery in America was unlike any other form of slavery that had existed prior to that time. Even the Hebrews, who were enslaved by so many in the biblical epic, they at least were allowed to keep their language. And to this day, Hebrew is a spoken language. With Malonza, we methodically learned all of the brutal facts about man's inhumanity to man and America's first moral sin, slavery. It goes without saying, because of Malonza's rigorous teaching, it caused the class to go from an overpacked 35 in the first week to about 20 in 2 weeks because of his teaching demands. Many found out just because you're black, angry with a big afro, doesn't get you through a serious study of African American history, or in these days, what they call critical race theory, better known as, in quotation, the truth. Over the last week, I have been bombarded with another horrible story about the African American experience here in America. We learned about the Tulsa in 1976. So this 1921 incident is, while disgusting, horrifying, shameful, enrages, and leaves you emotionally drained to the point that you intermittently cry, Tulsa is once again a reminder of the kind of fear that Dr. Thurman describes in Jesus and the Disinherited. The fear that an a person feels when they are being hunted or stalked. And this history of Tulsa we learned in 1976. Tulsa was not an aberration. The New York City race riots occurred, Rosewood in Florida, similar to Tulsa, all the way to the move attack by the Chicago police on a militant Afrocentric group held up in their residence when the police went in and burned down the whole damn neighborhood. And to this point today, the Chicago officials are attempting to return the bones of those residents burned in that police raid on the MOVE organization. My point about Tulsa is that so many African Americans don't know and don't want to know the continually brutal attacks on black communities affecting our value system, ability to inherit wealth, educate our children about their history, and not have to drive your car looking in your rearview mirror while driving black. A Jewish friend of mine was in a union meeting that was announcing a donation to the Fannie Lou Hamer Voting Rights Project. The union president, who was black, asked a mostly black audience in the mid-2000s if they knew who Miss Hamer was, and only the union president, who I told you was black, and the Jewish guy knew who Miss Hamer was. Do you know who Fannie Lou Hamer was? She was the mother of the voting rights, like Rosa Parks was the mother of integration. If you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going in the future. When I taught school in Oakland, a young black adolescent once told me that Martin Luther King was a black history man. And I replied, no, he was Martin Luther King. Don't let our experiences become just history to be swept into the dustpan of history. Remember, one of the tenets of the Process t-shirt is to educate our children about our past so we are focused on the present and future. One of the most important sources of spoken word that the podcast often will cite is Gil Scott-Heron, often called one of the last poets. And this recital of Mr. Heron's words are sort of what we're trying to get across. It's called the New Deal, and I'll just go right into it. I have believed in my convictions and been convicted for my beliefs, and I've been conned by the Constitution and harassed by the police. And I've been billed for the Bill of Rights for what included me all along. Like all men are created equal, there is no amendment needed there because my people have contributed in every circle from Cotton to Sunset Strip to Washington Square. And during the nonviolent era, there was no nonviolence because too many rednecks had guns. And there failed to be this pattern that most people fail to pick up on, that all our black leaders who dared to stand up were either on trial, dead, in a courtroom, or gone. They had been picked up indiscriminately by the shock troops of discrimination to wind up on trials while Dick Nixon and dirty tricks soured the nation. Which gets me back to my convictions and being convicted for my beliefs. Because I believe those gracious liberals with their three-piece suits and their three-piece smiles, they took our movement off the street and took us to the cleaners. Which gets me to where we are today, still somehow trying to realize a movement in Black Lives Matter. Yes, our past is full of a bitter moments in America, from 13 states to Watergate. But we're full of the resilience our ancestors displayed throughout the African American journey in America. Remember, we bear some responsibility in our plight. Slavery was a systematic, involved process that not only involved whites but also involved blacks. Slavery was an institution not just about some mean white people who didn't like black people. It was a systemically designed process. Slave owners had insurance on their slaves through the Aetna Insurance Company. And when the slaves were freed or they ran away, the slave owners filed claims with Aetna Insurance Company and were paid. But America has made the idea of reparations a non-starter. Ezekiel in the Bible is one of many prophets who came to prophesy, proclaim, warn, tell the Jewish high priests and the Jewish people about their sins and their impending doom because of their failure to follow his words. And so the high priest and many of the Jewish leaders sent Ezekiel back to say to God that they were not responsible for their forefathers or their parents' sins. And God's quick retort was, I'm not punishing you for what your forefathers did. I'm punishing you for what you did and what you're doing. And so in that sense, America, especially white America, has to go through an atonement. Not a feel sorry move or not even an empathetic move, but atonement, which is the kind of process in Rwanda that the Hutus and Tutus went through that is currently making Rwanda one of the most stable countries in Africa with a few bumps. And also it's the same process of atonement that had to happen in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Remember, our story is a story that a minister declared this morning, and so many times our parents have declared that trouble doesn't last forever. No, trouble doesn't last forever, but it will last forever if we don't embrace our history as a roadmap for how we should respond to the future. Staying woke is not a catchphrase or catch-all like it is what it is. If it is, our history will certainly repeat itself. I wish all 35 of those students had stayed in Malonzo's class before they watched tonight's documentary on Tulsa, because I believe if they had, they would be watching these documentaries with different lenses. We always forgive, but we never forget our legacy of slavery. It has been biblical in terms of, from my estimation, of the similarities between the Jewish experience and our experience. We at times appear to be literally wandering, figuratively wandering in the desert of history. Dr. Thurman makes a good case for this thought process, and I would encourage you to read Jesus and the Disinherited for further insight on this process, a way of seeing it. At this point, I'll shut up and let you watch the gluttony of documentaries, news bites about this Tulsa incident. But let us, as I began telling you from the very beginning, that basically Tulsa is about a mob of white residents in the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma on May the 31st and June 1st, many of them deputized and given weapons by city officials to attack black people and their businesses. And this is not fake news. This is not liberal banter. This is Wikipedia. When you Google Black Wall Street. So I would encourage all of us to pray for peace eternally for those souls that were lost at Tulsa, as we pray for the eternal peace for those soldiers who have dedicated their life to this country and our values. And let our prayers guide us with that knowledge to make America new. I thank you this morning. Happy Memorial Day. Blessed Memorial Day. Peace be with you.